And it is time now here for our Sustainable Soy Update with the United Soybean Board, our fourth week of the Sustainable Soy Update. And we're talking conservation practices when it comes to farmers for soil health. That's a topic we've highlighted here earlier on the Sustainable Soy Update. And we're picking that conversation back up today with Laurie Isley, a fourth-year farmer leader who serves as the Health and Nutrition Supply Work Group Lead and serves on the United Soybean Board's Value Alignment and Communications and Education Committees and grows soybeans and corn in Michigan. And Laurie, thank you for joining us here today for the Sustainable Soy Update. I hope you're doing well.
I'm doing well.
Well, what conservation practices have you found most effective in adapting to changing climate conditions, Laurie?
We've implemented a lot of different conservation practices on our farm over the last 15 to 20 years. I think anytime, almost anything you can put in place that will maintain your soil and keep it in the place where you want to have it, but also to enhance its health, are going to be positive when it comes to combating the effects of climate change. We have done a lot with precision agriculture as far as, first of all, understanding what our soil has already and only adding those things that we need to add to it. We also use both strip till with our corn and no-till with our soybeans, which we think allows that residue to stay on the soil and then builds up that organic matter. So we really feel pretty comfortable that we're trying to use those nutrients that we're adding and make sure they're available to the plants, as well as trying to eliminate any soil erosion that might happen.
Thinking about those practices you've been using for years now, what insights have you gained from utilizing these practices?
I think the most important thing we've probably learned from that is that implementing conservation isn't just a good thing to do for the environment, but it can also increase your profitability. And I think until we tie conservation practices to profitability, especially in the age that we're in right now, where we have low commodity prices, that it's pretty hard to sell that practice. But we have found that by reducing the number of trips we make across the field and being smarter with how we use our nutrient inputs, that we've been able to impact our bottom line. So I think that's really important to remember. We've also, although building organic matter is a really, really slow process, we've seen at least that we're able to show some increase in that and at least not a decrease in the amount of organic matter that's in our soil. And of course, that organic matter is responsible for that carbon sequestration as well. So we think that these long-term practices, but conservation isn't a try it this year and automatically see a dramatic increase in yield. It's a long-term investment in what I'm doing to both work with something that's good for the environment as well as something that's good for future generations.
Let's talk cover crops and bring that into this discussion, Laurie. How do cover crops contribute to protecting your land and improving sustainability on your farm?
One of the things we have found most beneficial about cover crops is we're a Brady sandy loam soil. Most of our farm is, and we're very flat. So between being flat and sandy and getting some winds there, one of the major benefits we see with cover crops is simply just holding that soil in place. So we really like to see a crop on our ground 12 months out of the year. So we put that cover crop on into the growing crop, and then we just have something that's always maintaining that soil. We don't need to share it with our neighbors. So we try and keep it where it is. And so a lot of it's been that, besides the fact that it also then, when we terminate that cover crop, it does then add to the organic matter in the soil, because we really try just to plant within that. So those are probably the two areas that we've seen the increase in organic matter, but also probably most importantly for us is just maintaining that soil and holding it in place.
Why is it important to spread the word about these various conservation practices, cover crops, etc.? From your perspective, why is it important to share this with folks?
I think people need to understand that agriculture is a critical part of our communities. I think it's important for them to understand that we all benefit by implementing some of these practices. One, because they can increase your profitability and your productivity, particularly if you're looking 5 years, 10 years, 15 years down the road. You're looking at, okay, what do I want this soil to look like for my children or my children's children if it stays there, or even for whomever might have it later. And as we see more and more land going out of agriculture, I think keeping the land that we have as healthy and productive as possible is really a critical point. We've done several events at our farm where we bring people in, we talk to them about strip tilling, we do a soil profile so they can see how we've managed to build some of that organic matter in our soil. And so some of it is really just, we have a responsibility to protect our environment, but I think we can do that in a way that does not decrease our profitability. So those are the key points we try and carry on. Plus we have looking at the larger picture, we really want to make sure that we have a story, that we have a positive environmental story that we can share, not just with consumers, but also with governmental agencies and places that are making decisions about how they use biofuels, or how they make decisions about what they're going to purchase and not purchase, based a little bit on whether or not we are implementing those practices. So sometimes we need to look beyond just what works for us on our farm and what does the big picture look like.
What are some investments that Checkoff makes to assist farmers in this area, Laurie?
Well, as the chair of the Supply Health and Nutrition, I get to be involved in a lot of that farmer directed research. So we do a lot of research on conservation practices. We do research on a little bit on some of the bio ones. We do a little bit now with biologics, and comparing what those do and how they impact the soil, and whether they can reduce our need to use some other types of fertilizers. We've made quite a few investments in a lot of different areas there. We also, of course, have made an investment, are working a lot on the Farmers for Soil Health, which is kind of a major initiative, which is between us and a couple other of the commodity organizations that really are boots on the ground to help farmers see, to provide funds for them and allow them to be able to implement or try these practices, maybe not on all of their acres, but maybe just on a small section to see how it works for them, and then hopefully build from there.
Anything else you want to add here on this week's Sustainable Soy Update, Laurie?
I guess if you're interested at all, I'll tell you a little more just about that Farmers for Soil Health. It is with pork and corn, and it's really designed to give payments for cover crops first off, but it really has three prongs. The first is the cover crop payments, which is $50 over 3 years. As well as a payment for those that have been doing cover crops for a long time, as we have, which is pretty unusual for a lot of those projects. It also, however, will provide technical assistance if you're interested in looking at other conservation practices at no cost to you. And it also seeks to put together and is in the process of doing a marketplace where farmers can connect directly with companies and organizations that really want to be able to say, we're getting this product from farms that are using these practices. So we think by using that three-prong approach, it will really help farmers to increase, again, their profitability, because they're being paid for using these practices, as well as give them an opportunity to get started in them if they're not comfortable with them or haven't felt support for that going forward. So I guess that would be my suggestion, is that you visit that Farmers for Soil Health website and learn a little bit more about that and whether or not you qualify. There's no long-term commitment beyond that timeline, but we really hope that people will see that it's beneficial for their crops.
Learn more at farmersforsoilhealth.com and also unitedsoybean.org. And that is going to do it for this week's Sustainable Soy Update. Laurie Isley with the United Soybean Board, thanks for joining us this week. We appreciate it.
Thank you for giving me the opportunity.